Fantasy Football Week 8 kicks off tonight. We've got Redskins and Vikings. Now, Adam Thielen is out, so make sure you know that. But Jeff Pasquino from thefootballguys.com is back. He'll answer your fantasy football questions. If you have a question for Jeff, send us a text, 609-403-0973. Ryan and Jeff Mosher, not Pasquino, will compile your questions, and they'll ask the best questions that we get. And, of course, we'll start it all up with the Thursday night game. Jeff, we got Redskins offensively challenged. Minnesota has been offensively much better the last couple of weeks. Who from these two teams should be in your lineups tonight?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. So I think that the number one name is definitely Dalvin Cook. He's a top 3 running back, and you expect Minnesota to win by about 2 touchdowns. That's what's projected. So they're going to run the ball a lot. But I also like Alexander Madison is their number 2 running back. He's very effective. He often gets the ball, like he has a change of pace, but he gets 5 to 10 touches a game, but he can get you 75 yards and a touchdown. So he's a sleeper flex guy to pick up. Wide receiver from Minnesota, again, focusing mostly on the Vikings here. Stephon Diggs is the stud wide receiver 1. He'll be the number 1 option. They're going to have another guy out there that's just kind of holding down the fort at the wide receiver 2 spot. But most of your action is going to go over to tight end, and Kyle Rudolph and Irv Smith are solid options at a lackluster performance in spot. Olabisi Johnson is the wide receiver 2 for Minnesota. He's really not worth anything. Washington, the only player I really play for Washington is more of a flex than play would be Terry McLaurin at wide receiver.
All right, let's look at some quarterbacks for week number 8. Of course, the bye weeks are here, so make sure you get your bye guys on the bench. Let's go with a couple of names. Let's start off with Jacoby Brissett. He's got Denver this week. It's a good Denver defense, but Brissett over 300 yards last week. Do you have him in your lineup this week?
Yeah, the Denver secondary is kind of up and down. That could be a lower scoring affair. You never know how the weather's going to – it's starting to get colder. You got to keep that in mind with you saw what the slosh was in Washington last week. So Brissett is a borderline QB1. There's a few better options, about 10 or so, but he's definitely viable this week.
All right, I want to get your thoughts on what to do with Teddy Bridgewater, because you got the Cardinals this week. This might be the last chance to play him before they go back to Breeze. So are you putting him in your lineup one last time?
I think that's probably not my top option. We have him at quarterback 18, so there's most of the other quarterbacks are better than him at this point. Their Saints are playing very strong on defense and running the ball with Latavius Murray, and that's pretty much going to be their recipe against a woeful Arizona team. The secondary is probably the best part of their defense.
This one's going to be interesting because Mahomes is out, but Matt Moore is in. I mean, you got great weapons there, but is Matt Moore a fantasy stud?
He's more of a quarterback, too, as well. He drops into a nice situation, and, of course, you've got Kelsey and Hill to receive the ball, but they're going to try and play a conservative approach, and teams are playing them to keep the offense on the sideline, and Green Bay's got a very good defense. I like Green Bay as probably one of the only road teams favored to win this week.
Jeff Pasquino, let's get a couple more from you on the quarterbacks here. What are we doing here with a guy like Baker Mayfield? He had such high expectations. He had big numbers last year. Are we kind of giving up on him as a starter?
You're looking for the good matchup, and this week is not one of them. Against the Patriots, one of the best defenses in the league right now. Mayfield is close to the bottom in our rankings this week. You're probably better off if you're going to pick up a guy, maybe a Josh Allen or a Daniel Jones or Kyler Murray for this week.
Kyle Murray, let's go to him. He was my last guy to get you. He's been good, but they're playing the Saints in the Dome. I feel like this is a week where the young quarterback looks like a young quarterback.
Yeah, but there's always that fourth quarter that all fantasy points count and some garbage time where he may get you a touchdown, and he has the ability to scramble. So Murray's got a little bit of a boosted floor there. He's a borderline quarterback 1.
All right, Jeff Pasquino, footballguys.com. If you have a question for Jeff, 609-403-0973. The guys are compiling your questions out there. We'll move over to some running backs now and get Jeff's take on guys like Derrick Henry. The Tennessee running back playing Tampa this week. He does things so quietly, but is he a guy you got to play?
Yeah, and Tennessee is really focused on running the ball a little bit more. They are a little bit more effective with a change of quarterbacks there, but Henry sees a bulk of work. He's going to get 20-plus touches. Tampa Bay's been up and down all season. Henry is a solid running back, too, with a little bit of running back 1 upside.
Last year, Phillip Lindsay, he was a guy that you grabbed off the waiver wire, and he turned into a great player for you. Is Lindsay finally getting closer to the guy he was last year?
The only thing holding Lindsey back is really Royce Freeman and the play calling. So Royce Freeman, they're working in there. Denver really wants to run the ball, aside from giving up in the passing game with a statuesque Flacco back there until Luck is ready to go, or the new quarterback for the rookie will be healthy soon. But Lindsey and Freeman are your guys. Like, they're your running back twos, a little bit of upside, but they're going to split work, which is going to hinder both.
Everybody's running out to get Chase Edmonds. Should they play him?
Absolutely. He's a running back, one with some upside. He's shown that he can score from anywhere. I think he said he tied a record with 3 touchdowns from 20-plus yards last week. He's a stud running back, a running back one with upside, and there's not much behind him.
Jeff, let's get one more running back in here before we move on. And I'm going to throw Tevin Coleman your way in that San Francisco situation, because Breida really had the big game a couple of nights ago. So what are you doing with the San Francisco backs?
I think Coleman's a borderline running back, too, with Breida more in the flex spot. Breida had a little bit of fumbleitis there. Both backs are in play. They'll see plenty of touches, but Carolina's defense is pretty good in that front seven.
All right, let's go to the wideouts. If you have a question for Jeff, 609-403-0973. Keep your text messages rolling in. It's Week 8, fantasy football. I'm on a 2-game win streak, and hopefully everybody out there is using Jeff's advice to help you get there. Keenan Allen, he was a guy that, he's typically one of those top receivers. Haven't heard much about him. What's going on with that Charger offense? Is he a guy you want to play?
Well, 2 things are going on with the Chargers. They're trying to get Melvin Gordon going, which isn't going so well last week. And they've got Hunter Henry back at tight end, which is eating into Allen's targets. He's not getting 15-plus targets a week anymore. So Keenan Allen's still a wide receiver 1. He's just not in the top 3 anymore.
All right, let's go to John Brown. Eagles secondary, horrendous. Buffalo offense, not very good. What's the diagnosis for Mr. Brown?
John Brown was on my short list to mention this week. So he's a wide receiver, too, with some upside against that matchup. I think that Buffalo is going to have to put up some points. They might struggle to move the ball in the front 7 of the Eagles in the ground game, so they're going to have to take to the air a little bit, have Josh Allen scramble a little. But John Brown is in a position to get 75 yards and a touchdown this week.
All right, how about Golden Tate? He's the top option with the Giants. They play Detroit this week. Is Tate a guy that's a good PPR, a guy who can really get a lot of targets and catches?
He's a wide receiver 2 candidate this week, especially in PPR leagues. He's going to see 7 or 8 targets for sure. They like his shorthandedness. He's a good, reliable target. I think he's a solid option as a wide receiver 2 against Detroit. All
right, one more for Jeff before we get your questions in. Text your questions in, 609-403-0973. And why don't we take a look at what's going on with Kenny Golladay. And you got Stafford, who's having a pretty good year now. He's got the Giants. So that Giant team is a team that I think you can score a lot of points on fantasy-wise.
Yeah, it really comes down to who's being targeted in the end zone and which cornerbacks are on who. But both Golladay and Marvin Jones are solid wide receiver 2s with touchdown upside that could bring in a wide receiver 1. These guys are going to be up there. Plus, with Detroit having running back problems, I think you're going to see a lot of passing for the Lions this week.
All right, Jeff, we got the questions coming in for you. The first one is a pick'em that they're asking you to pick 3 of the following: Julio Jones, Tyreek Hill, Tyler Lockett, and John Brown. Honestly, that sounds like pick between Tyler Lockett and John Brown. I would think that Julio Jones and Tyreek Hill are good plays.
I would agree with that, and I would go with John Brown. It's a close one. Tyler Lockett in the Dome against Atlanta, there could be some upside, but I think John Brown's in a very strong situation this week.
All right, we got a question here from my guy Joey D. in Ventnor. He wants to know, Jeff, would you start Kirk Cousins or Jared Goff this week? And would you trade Tyreek Hill and Phillip Lindsay for Dalvin Cook?
I love the midseason trade questions. Here they come.
Yep.
It sounds like he's got depth to spare. So Dalvin Cook is a top 5 running back. So whenever you can get a stud like that, I probably would. If he's got the depth to do it, I would do it. I love 2-for-1 trades if you got the depth. As far as the quarterback, I would start Goff against Cincinnati. The Bengals are one of the 3 worst teams in the league, and I think that Goff is going to be leading that effort there. It's overseas in London, keep that in mind, but it's a normal kickoff time. I like Goff as a top 5 quarterback.
All right, Jeff, our friend Ed in Cape May Courthouse wants to know, he needs 1 for flex. MVS on the Packers, D.D. Westbrook, or Damian Williams, and he'd also like you to pick a defense between Carolina and Seattle.
Defenses. So I'll start. I'll come back to that in 1 second. But as far as the play, I think MVS is definitely your wide receiver. D.D. Westbrook is a little bit banged up. I would go with MVS because, especially with, he's probably going to be the wide receiver 1 for Green Bay this week. At defense, those are tough calls. I think I'd go. They're right even with each other. I'd rather take Seattle against a woeful Atlanta team who might be missing Matt Ryan versus taking Carolina.
All right, so this listener has Andrews, the tight end from Baltimore, and Jason Witten, both on buys, and available tight ends are Herndon, Cook, Rudolph, Howard, and McDonald. Who should they pick up, tight end?
I would go with Rudolph because of the issues that are at wide receiver 2 with Thielen out for Minnesota. I would go. I think that's your right answer, Rudolph.
All right, we're going to kill 2 Kirk Cousins birds with 1 stone here. One listener asks Brissett or Cousins, and another wants to know between Cousins or Jameis Winston.
I think Brissett and Winston are shades better than Cousins, not by a lot, but I'd take both of them over Cousins.
All right, Jeff Pasquino, footballguys.com. I guess before we get a couple of quick sleepers, we did have this question come in that I do want to fire your way, which has to do with Mohamed Sanu. What happens to his value now?
Great question. He's traded the Patriots. So the Patriots have had a big hole left by Rob Gronkowski over the middle. That's going to be his role, especially after their week 10 bye. They're going to work him in for a couple weeks right now, but I think after week 10, Sanu is a great pickup, and he'll be a wide receiver 3 with some strong upside.
All right, Jeff Pasquino, footballguys.com. All right, some plays this week, some waiver wire guys that are in your lineup under the radar. Who do you like?
Well, first off, 4 teams coming off of a bye. Anybody off of those teams is usually overlooked, so take a look there. I also like Drew Lock, who is going to be a quarterback in Denver in a few weeks if you're desperate for a second quarterback. The number 1 guy on waiver wires is Ty Johnson for Detroit. We haven't mentioned him yet. With Kerryon Johnson going to IR and probably not coming back for fantasy season, Ty Johnson is a running back, too. You can grab and plug in right away. We mentioned Latavius Murray, Chase Edmonds. Wendell Smallwood is a guy that's more of a flex. He's the running back 2 for Washington, but again, it's Washington, so we temper expectations there. Darrell Henderson is banged up for the Rams, so look for some depth there. I'm sorry, Darrell Henderson is your wide receiver, or running back 2 for the Rams. This week. He has some solid flex upside. At wide receiver, Kenny Stills is now going to be in the starting lineup for Houston, so he's a wide receiver 3. And I think that we mentioned Sanu and Deshaun Hamilton and Zach Pascal are really just some rolls of the dice at wide receiver. And I mentioned Kyle Rudolph and also Irv Smith at tight end.
There you go. You got a laundry list of guys to play this week. Jeff Pasquino, footballguys.com. Week 8 starts tonight. Get your guys active. Get your bye week guys out. And, of course, good luck to you, Jeff.
Good luck, everybody. Enjoy the games.
All right, Jeff Pasquino, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda Hotline.